Welcome back to our series on effective presentations. Having covered how to close with a strong summary in our previous session, today we'll explore the critical skill of managing audience questions, the final component that can make or break your presentation's success. The Q&A session transforms your presentation from a monologue into a dialogue, offering a valuable opportunity to engage directly with your audience and demonstrate your knowledge. A well-managed Q&A session reinforces your credibility and leaves a lasting positive impression on your audience. Before the Q&A, you should anticipate likely questions and prepare concise, thoughtful responses to demonstrate your expertise. During the session, you must listen carefully, maintain your composure, and address questions with clarity and confidence. After the Q&A, you should follow up on any unanswered questions and use the feedback to improve your future presentations. Interruptions can derail your presentation flow and affect your timing. While audience engagement is valuable, maintaining control of your presentation is essential. When an audience member interrupts with a question mid-presentation, you have several options. You can postpone with gratitude by saying, "Thank you for your question. If you don't mind, I'll address this issue during our Q&A session." You can also promise a follow-up with a phrase like, "That's an excellent point. Could we get back to that a bit later? I'll cover it in more detail in the next section." If the question is quick to answer and relevant, you can provide a brief answer and then move on, smoothly returning to your presentation. Reformulating questions ensures accuracy, gives you time to formulate a response, and demonstrates active listening skills to your audience. You can echo the question to ensure the entire audience can hear it. You can also rephrase for clarity by saying, "If I understand you correctly, you would like to know." Or, "Okay, so what you're asking is..." If you did not fully hear the question, you can ask for clarification with a phrase like, "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat your question, please?" Finally, after answering, you should confirm satisfaction by checking, "Does that answer your question?" or "Did I address your concern sufficiently?" Even the most prepared presenters encounter challenging questions. How you handle these moments can significantly impact your credibility and audience perception. Difficult questions generally fall into several categories, each requiring a different strategic approach. For questions you don't know, you can say, "That's an interesting question. I don't have that specific information right now, but I'd be happy to research it and follow up with you after the presentation." For hostile questions, you should remain calm, focus on the content, and respond with facts rather than emotion. An example is saying, "I understand your concern. Let me address the core issue." For off-topic questions, you can say, "That's beyond the scope of today's presentation, but I'd be happy to discuss it with you afterward." Not knowing an answer can feel uncomfortable, but handling these moments with honesty and professionalism can actually enhance your credibility rather than diminish it. You should first acknowledge the question by saying, "That's a good question. I don't have that specific information right now." Then you can bridge by sharing related information you do know. Next, you should commit to following up, for example, by saying, "I'll research this and email you the answer by tomorrow." You can also redirect by saying, "My colleague specializes in that area. May I connect you with them?" Remember, you should never invent answers or guess when you're uncertain, as audiences value authenticity over false expertise. Q&A sessions involve managing not just questions, but also the group dynamics of your audience. Some individuals may dominate while others remain silent despite having valuable questions. To balance participation, you can say, "Let's hear from someone in the back of the room," or "I'd like to take a question from someone who hasn't spoken yet." To handle dominating participants, you can say, "Thank you for your engagement. To ensure everyone has a chance, let's move to another question." To encourage quiet attendees, you can use a phrase like, "I see some people taking notes. I'd love to hear what questions those observations might have prompted." Effective moderating ensures that the Q&A becomes an inclusive dialogue rather than a conversation with just a few vocal participants. The more thoroughly you prepare, the more confidently you will handle unexpected questions. To anticipate questions, you should brainstorm potential questions by reviewing your content from the audience's perspective. You should also prepare supporting materials, such as backup slides, references, or handouts, for complex topics that might arise. You should also research thoroughly by preparing additional data, examples, and background information beyond what's in your main presentation. Finally, you should practice responses by rehearsing difficult questions with colleagues who can challenge you as your audience might. It is important to properly transition into and out of the Q&A session. When starting the Q&A, you should clearly signal the transition with a phrase like, "I'd now like to open the floor for questions." You can also provide structure, for example, by saying, "Please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Please state your name and organization before your question." When ending the Q&A, you can signal the end by saying, "We have time for one more question." You should always end with your planned conclusion rather than letting the Q&A be your final moment. This ensures you control the presentation's closing impression. To conclude, remember these key takeaways for mastering Q&A sessions. First, prepare thoroughly by anticipating questions and preparing concise, knowledgeable responses in advance. Second, clarify and reformulate questions to ensure everyone hears and understands them. Third, be authentic. Don't be afraid to say, "I don't know," when necessary, but always offer follow-up solutions. Fourth, stay composed. Handle difficult questions with grace, maintaining a professional demeanor throughout. Finally, maintain control. Manage the session flow and audience dynamics and always end on your terms. The Q&A session is an integral part of your presentation that can significantly enhance your impact and credibility when handled skillfully.